everybody. Welcome back to Conversations by the Sea, the podcast about mental health, running a business, and all that kind of stuff. My name's Ellen.
My name's Craig.
And I don't know what episode this is. Maybe 5 or 6? Maybe 7?
Maybe 7.
Oh, I don't know. Well, apparently I read a stat this week. I think it was Steve from Being Freelance shared it, and he said that most podcasts don't make it past the 5th episode, apparently.
Well, I'm not sure anyone's watching us, but we've made it.
Yeah. We're trying. So we'll be getting some good comments on YouTube, and I think this is a good setup now as well, where we're looking at the camera rather than before. So pleased with that. How's your week been?
My week?
Yeah,
it's been alright.
Like work-wise and stuff?
Yeah, alright. Bit worried about next week because I think we've had some other project work and stuff, and it's pushed the retainer work back a little.
Yeah. It's always the last the last 10 days of the month is always like the craziest for us because we've got a lot of like end of the month deadlines.
Yeah, and we do a few social media calendar stuff, and that's always stressful because you have to sort of schedule.
And you do all that work, don't you? So.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been alright. I think I'm gonna work really hard this week, and then look forward to there's a game coming out that I'm looking forward to at the end of the week.
Yeah, so. I was just about to ask, like, what else outside of work have you been doing? Enjoying watching Cobra Kai.
Yeah, we've been watching a lot of Cobra Kai.
That's our thing. For listeners and viewers of the podcast, Craig had never watched The Karate Kid.
No, it wasn't a film that I grew up with. So I mean, I watched it and I thought it was good. And obviously, I knew about the crane kick. It's like super famous.
Yeah.
But
I was a big 80s like cult movie fan, so like I didn't really like, and I'm still not a big fan of Disney like cartoon movies. Like I always liked, even when I was tiny, I liked movies with like, we used to call them like people films instead of like cartoons.
People films.
So like Big with Tom Hanks, like Goonies, Hocus Pocus, Beetlejuice was like a big fave, and then
I've watched more 80s films since I met you than I had when I was a kid.
Yeah.
For me, I think when I was a kid, I used to like more further back probably. Like I've always liked gangster films.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Yeah, I had never watched any gangster films till I met you, so I suppose we brought bits of culture to each other's lives.
Yeah. Funny enough, watching The Karate Kid makes me want to watch more like martial artsy films.
Yeah.
Because I never really got I always because of the MMA background. Once I got to that age, I always scorned fake martial arts. And then when I was a kid, I just wasn't into them other than Mortal Kombat, which I loved. I absolutely loved the original Mortal Kombat film. I'm glad I'm making a new one. But yeah, it's great. It's terrible, but great. What have you been up to?
Well, obviously watching Cobra Kai as well. I've been reading an audiobook. Well, I started yesterday and nearly finished it, called Grown by, hang on, I'll just find out the author's name. I should have looked at before. Tiffany D. Jackson. It's very, very good. It's about about a young girl that gets in with a really famous singer, and she wants to be a singer, and then she's 17 and she starts hanging around with him, touring with him, but he turns out to be abusive. And then I was like, this is just too similar to R. Kelly, and then I googled it, and apparently it is loosely based. So it's about the young girls that he goes and grooms, and then tricks into thinking that they're
that sadly classic story of
they
male in power
trying to get there, but it's just done from her point of view. So it's similar to My Dark Vanessa, which was another one that I read, where it's from the female's point of view. So you see in the minute you're shouting, being no, he's being abusive, get out. If you I know it's hard to get out, but don't forgive him. And then they're oh, he loves me, and they're yeah. But the audiobook's been really, really good, and now they finished that. And other than watching Cobra Kai, I don't think I've been doing anything else other than working.
Yeah, I think audiobooks, it's probably worth mentioning, both me and Ellen have an Audible subscription, and a lot of people are funny about audiobooks, and if you've never read one before, listen to a book like that, I would really recommend trying it, because for a lot of people, I think it's one of the best ways to actually read again and rediscover the joy of reading.
Yeah, if you're not actively reading a lot, and then, or you want to get more into reading, there's some dogs barking outside, and then you're struggling, and you think, well, audiobooks are good, especially dramatizations. So there's a big Lord of the Rings dramatization, isn't there, where you got the soundscape and stuff as well, and the music. And I think Stormlight Archive, there's more there's different, it's not just a person reading a book. Often there's different there's different voices and stuff. Yeah. yeah, anyway, so interesting week. Usual another week in lockdown, but not long left now. We're recording this on the 21st of March, so we've not got long left before we're allowed to go and sit outside a pub again, which would be nice because it's been really nice weather this weekend, and I wouldn't mind being able to do that soon.
Yeah, I think the sun shining puts you in a better mood naturally anyway.
We walked past Potter's favourite pub yesterday, and he was like trying to get in, and it's shut, and it was just sad.
Bless him, yeah.
So this week it's just the two of us again because have been really busy trying to organise guests. There's a long list of people that I want to get on, but have to organise that instead of recording the podcast on the Sunday to release on the Sunday, which is the current status.
I think you need to not be hard on yourself. Ellen downplays it, but she puts most of it. Like, I just sit here and talk. Ellen puts this all together, and we're doing this on top of work. We're not making any money from it or anything.
Yeah, it feels like it's always podcast day or newsletter day at the minute. And I love doing both those things, but both of them take a lot of time because I want to send out something good into the world. And also I'm because it's weekly, I never want to skip a week, and the same with the newsletter. Oh, I suppose one big thing that happened this week was it was a year of the newsletter. So
yeah,
one whole year of sending an email every week, except Christmas.
It's a big achievement, that though, like the consistency. I mean, like, speaking personally, you know how inconsistent I am with writing, and like sometimes I'll do loads and then like
I think that's just the nature of your like way though, whereas like I'm almost trapped by my own routines a little bit.
Yeah, but I think
even when we were in Scotland on holiday, I did a newsletter. Like,
I don't think you've ever like phoned it in. You know what I mean? I think every newsletter you've sent has had value to the people who subscribe.
Hopefully, yeah. So this week I've asked on Twitter. I was gonna say in the stupid voice that we do.
Twitter.
Some questions from Q&A. I actually got a few responses which I was surprised by. Sorry. From some freelancers that I know, and mostly about freelancing and just generally having ADHD, working with ADHD, that sort of thing. So I'm going to start with, I think Lauren's question was the first that came in. So Lauren says, what are the pros and cons of going limited? So for me, I was a sole trader from February 19 till September 2020, and I had to go limited because Craig joined the business, and the choice was a partnership or limited, because there was two people working under the same like moniker. Obviously you were going to work under Content by the Sea, you weren't going to be like a separate freelancer. So we spoke to the accountant and did the maths, and the accountant basically said like financially limited company's the best for you and your tax situation, and we're registered for VAT at the same time because we're just like airing around the threshold but not over the threshold yet, and they'd said it's better to do it now. So we just went with the advice. I don't think it's given us, I mean, some people go limited really early because they think it gives you the legitimacy, but I felt just as legitimate when I was a sole trader, and nobody ever said to me, you're just a sole trader, because I was running a business under another name as well. So like Content by the Sea was the trader name of me as a sole trader. So it doesn't feel any different, except the fact that I put limited at the end.
Yeah, I think pros wise, like you say, though, I do think it adds a sense of like authenticity.
You do.
Yeah, like I think it's cool to be.
Yeah, I guess.
It's cool that we run a limited company.
And people can see it on Company's House.
Sounds
and stuff.
good. It's a nice thing to be able to like show off to my parents.
From a personal perspective, it separates the money, because I used to get paid into my own account, and then when I first went to be a sole trader, I tried to get a business account, and I got rejected, and then because it was brand new and it wasn't like a thing, so then for the whole time I just didn't bother trying to apply again, and then just let all the money come into my account, and then it was really hard because also bills and stuff, and I got so like confused with what money was where. Whereas now we've got a Starling business account, and we just take a salary and dividends, and we also have a joint account for the house and everything. My bank account is just now, the money in the bank account is just for me to spend on like whatever I want, pens. So
pens.
Yeah,
and Ellen has quite the pen collection.
Pens and like leggings. So like, I don't have to worry as much thinking, because I used to think, I've got loads of money, and then I'd realise that all the bills hadn't come out, and I hadn't paid for DocuSign, I hadn't paid for Adobe and things like that. So now it's all just business account, and we're also getting a pension as well, so that'll come out the business account. So I suppose the taxable income, no, what's the word? where it's like a tax expense, like, you know, like pensions and life cover.
I can't remember.
Yeah, but like stuff you can write off.
It's like a tax exempt. I don't know.
Yeah, tax exempt, whatever. So yeah, I suppose that. Have you got anything else to say? Pros and cons of going limited. I suppose the cons are just that.
Well, it's cost. VAT more than anything is the con.
Yeah, VAT costs. So if you're VAT registered and your clients, most of our clients are, but a couple of them aren't. If they are, it doesn't really matter because they get the VAT back and it's fine. If they're not, then obviously they're paying 20% on top of what you're doing just for paying 20%. Like,
but I also think even for the companies that are VAT registered, like we probably wrongly assumed, like often assume, it's fine, we can just claim it back. But that's not like an instant process or anything. So when you have to pay VAT on a service,
it's the same for us as well. Because
but one of our clients said to me like, just, you know, it's
cash flow. You mean
because of cash flow? Yeah. So like that's something you need to account for. I think is like, you know, when you start charging the extra 20% VAT, you kind of people will pay it if they want to work with you. But
I think it brings with it like a lot more. I think the VAT thing brings with it more legitimacy than the limited thing, because you start to work with much bigger companies, and much more. You know, people don't treat you as much. They're like, oh, okay, this is like a serious like organization. Like there's VAT involved, so you work with bigger companies, and you just kind of also maybe price gate the smaller people. Like they say, oh well, you know, and then they maybe go for a smaller sole trader or someone cheaper. So I guess there's several sides to it. Yeah. Okay, Ed Callow from Right 52 and also a freelance writer has said, question to Craig, what's something you think Ellen does really well in the business? And then he's asked me the same about Craig.
I mean, with like a risk of sounding like a cop out, I would say everything. You know, Ellen is the business. Like, she built it herself, you know, to the point where I was lucky enough to be able to come and join. But really, I try and help, but I just help with the delivery of the actual work because I'm not really capable of multitasking enough to do all the other things. So, you know, Ellen, for instance, does all of the invoicing. She organises the Notion dashboards and like the client work, sort of keeps me on track, and does all their own work as well. So honestly, everything. I think like it was shocking that you didn't win that female award the other week. Like,
oh yeah, I think it was just more because I wasn't like a member of the organisation. So I
think we don't really shout enough about like what we do because we're so busy doing client work that we don't really put like enough new case studies on or anything. Yeah. Which I will eventually get round to doing because, you know, like you don't have the time and I do want to do that and help. But Ellen, you know, she is like the archetypal amazing like under 30 female entrepreneur. Like,
oh, thanks. Few months to go.
I'm constantly in awe of the stuff you do, and probably don't shout it up enough. So I'm glad Ed asked that so I can sort of sing your praises a bit, because I'm not like, you know, when we're sitting off camera and off microphone, it's hard to maybe like get across how proud I am of you. But I'm really proud and I'm really grateful as well that Ellen built it to the point where I could come and join it, because, you know, working from home and like working not to a routine is a bit of a dream for me. So
yeah, being with the dogs all day and stuff.
It's great. And aside from that as well, I think another thing that Ellen does really, really well is that surprises me, because for years and years I've known Ellen as more of an introvert, but I think she does represents the business really well and sort of supports other freelancers. Helps, like, you know, the fact that all these people are responding on Twitter with questions, and we'll set up that little Discord that everyone seems to like.
Yeah, the Discord's bouncing. Sometimes I don't go in it for a few days because I'm like, I don't want to speak to any human beings at all. And then I go in. Well, I go in every day, but I might not respond. I might just lurk, and I'm like lurking in my own Discord. And people are just chatting on each other, and I think it helps. Yeah,
it's good. So and much. I think that's another, like, that's an amazing thing Ellen does. And I think it's more amazing because she's overcame like our own natural introversion to become like a really social, helpful, just like kind person in the freelance community.
Oh, thanks. I think that the thing with like, maybe we'll do an episode about extroversion and introversion, but the thing is that like when you're doing something, maybe the introverts will agree, but when you're doing something for the business, you can kind of, it's for the business, so you like fake it a bit, and the confidence that I would have in like a networking event talking to strangers compared to like going to a party where I didn't really know anybody is like it's like polar opposites, because when your income and your life is on the line and you're the business, like, and also you're really confident talking about, because people are only going to ask about social media or something that you can answer. I just think that the confidence comes with experience, but also just like knowing that it's a business environment, so it's less, I don't feel less vulnerable. Although obviously I do share a lot of vulnerabilities online and stuff.
But I think what I mean though is that you put yourself out there to do those things. Like I'm super confident talking about what we do, and like if I'm in a meeting and stuff, I can be super engaged. But what I mean about you is that you actually make the effort to go and do these things and set these things up, whereas I just sort of just kind of get by with what I can, because in my head it's just like all I really want to do is the client work and then enjoy this new work-life balance.
Yeah, I think maybe you might disagree, but I definitely have more passion for like the business side of it. Mm-hmm. Like, and I don't mean like the admin side, because I hate that bit, but like the idea of freelancing as a concept, and the whole point of this podcast and the newsletter, and like the community, and like Content Club UK Twitter chats and the Discord. Like, you're always like there, but the roles are flipped because you're the extrovert, but like you're much more introverted online and I'm much more extroverted online, and then in person you're much more like, if we were, the thing is that because you've joined the business, this is my answer to Ed's question, is probably that the best thing that you'll do in the business hasn't happened yet, in that sense, because you haven't been able to go to anything in person.
You heard that live, guys. I haven't done anything good
no
yet.
I haven't finished saying what I want to say, but yeah, I think you'll really excel when you get to go out in person, because that's when you like people get to really know you. But I have been obviously hearing you doing well on Zoom as well, and I know that Zoom for ADHD, if you've got ADHD or ASD, I know that Zoom is really, really hard, because you're not getting, reading social cues is difficult at the best of times, never mind when you're looking at all these different little squares of people, and it's not.
I find it really hard to stay interested. I mean, even being honest, doing this podcast, if it wasn't for like it being one
when it's me and you, but when there's a guest, you probably
I find it really hard. I've got to like just try and constantly read, and then it's like we always joke and say that we're like knackered after doing the podcast. Yeah. But I mean, hopefully you think that
I'll finish the question. Well, that's the next thing. The next thing I was going to say is that you obviously strongest suit is like work delivery and speed of work delivery. So like the speed with which you can write content is like unbelievable, especially like articles and stuff. So I can go away if you're in a hyper focused state. I can go away and come back and you've written thousands of words, and we just go through and like edit it and submit it. And you're also like much better now at like following the retainers. Like, you take care of almost all of our monthly retainer work. So some clients will get like 2 blogs and a social calendar for like a set fees, mostly small businesses, and you take care of all of that, and I do the project stuff. So it's a good balance that we've got, because I used to be, when it was just me, I was crippled under the weight of the retainer and the project. So like if I had a web design project on, I couldn't do that. I was doing that, but then I also had to skip out of that and deliver the 3 articles a month or whatever, and now you do that. So, and I know that you're going to do it fine, and it's going to be really good quality and stuff. So when we decided to record this, I was like, oh, there's only a few questions, so this isn't going to be a long one. We'll already talked for 20 minutes. So right, next question is from Wendy, and she says, if you need more time on a project due to mental health, what do you say to your client? I tend to be very open and honest about it, but I also know that being frank about mental health does sometimes make people uncomfortable. So when there's been the 2 of us in the business, we've not had to do this, but when I work by myself, obviously I've spoken in the past about my mum being ill and then passing away. So I did obviously have to, unfortunately, tell the clients that, which I didn't really want to do, because I'm very much like a coper, and I don't really want to talk about, even though I talk about mental health all the time, I didn't really want to say, look, this has happened. So it's a hard one to say. Like,
I think you also felt pressure because that happened pretty much like 2 months in.
2 months into starting the business, and with one of my first big web design projects. And so I kind of said to people that this was going on. They knew that I had mentioned that she was ill and stuff, and then when she passed away, I mentioned that. But I didn't really want to talk about it, because the thing is, if you've ever experienced a bereavement like that, everyone wants to also talk about their bereavement, and it's often people have undealt with grief, and it can bring out. I mean, it's same for me when somebody loses a parent. I start thinking about my loss, and like it makes people talk about theirs, and it's in a business setting, and I'm like, oh, it's just happened. Like I don't want to talk about it yet. So there's that. But back to the question. I suppose we've not had to do it. Like either of us have had to really do it because even if one of us is having a really hard time, so like in the winter we both had quite a hard time. I've not. I just kind of had to deliver it and just.
I think me and Ellen are both
at my own detriment. Yeah.
I think we're both so like focused on making sure work's delivered that, you know, short of having to like go somewhere due to bad mental health, like, you know, I'm thinking like if you had to be sectioned or something, like, you know, even on the worst days where we can barely drag ourselves out of bed, I still drag myself to my desk and do what needs to be done for the retainers. But I think probably, Wendy, the best like answer for us is that the flexibility of the working day helps, because we can like, rather than having to tell a client that we can't deliver this work, instead I would just maybe not work in the morning, you know, just take the whole morning off because I feel so crap, and then catch up at night time when I feel productive, and then I still get the work done to when I said I was going to get it done, just in a totally different way to how I might have done it.
And I also think we're kind of prioritize it as such as like this like if it's an existing client relationship and a retainer, it's the highest priority, because over a long period of time that means the most to the business, and then that plus a project, they're like, that has to be done. And then there's other stuff that, you know, if I don't reply to every single lead that comes in, like because I forgot, like we were just talking about one that I forgot about, like it really sucks, but it's not the end of the world. But delivering the client work is the most important, because they've either already paid for it or they're going to pay for it and we need that money. So I guess a balance of that. And then like if a day like a Friday comes along and it's too hard, then maybe take the Friday off, work on the Saturday, or spread it out. And obviously it's difficult because for other people who work by themselves, more difficult because we work together. So normally, although we're both experienced mental health problems, we're normally one of us is down when the other one's up, so we can like take the slack off the other person.
Yeah, we can support each other a lot, and I guess that's a real privilege that a lot of people don't have in the freelance community. I think probably we don't really talk to our like, obviously our clients could be listening to this podcast and know about our mental health challenges and stuff like that, but I think we don't really talk to clients about our mental health problems like at all.
I think there's like some who I know actively read the newsletter, and then I know that there's some who don't know anything about it. And I think
there's for me, and this is just me personally, I feel like there's a slight line between how much I'm willing to share on something like this on a podcast, or you know, like if I was to write a newsletter like Ellen, like I'm happy to be open about my mental health issues, but when it comes time to like talking about work with a client, I just want to sort of be as professional as I can be, because I'm quite chatty and informal most of the time anyway, and you know, I kind of need to keep things slightly professional so that also I still feel like I'm at work.
Also, it can be emotionally exhausting, can't it? Like when, I don't know, sometimes you have a client who like emotionally dumps on you, and like you're like, okay, like I'm here to listen to you, but like because I'm trying to be the best person I can possibly be, but equally, like there's only so much, the compassion fatigue of listening to other people. I don't know how people who are like therapists or something even cope carrying like the compassion fatigue of like listening to other people all the time. Like I listen to like one person, and then I'm like, if it's a friend or something, it's different, but if it's a client, it can sometimes be a bit like, okay, where's my line here? Because personally I wouldn't share, I would say, oh, having a difficult time, but I might not share like the ins and outs of their physical health problems, for example.
You don't think listening to people's problems is going to affect you until like later, when you're like, God, why do I feel so down now? Like, and then you're like, oh yeah, because I've just...
Same with the news and stuff as well.
Yeah, and it's the same. It's exactly the same. You know, the more
so just take it easy and try not to take on so much work that you know that you couldn't deliver it without crushing yourself, and prioritize the things that are like, you know, a traffic light system where it's like, this has to be done, because, and then this stuff is like, okay, it doesn't matter if I don't post on LinkedIn for a couple of weeks. Like, that's not as important.
Yeah, I think to answer Wendy's question definitively, go, if I ever did need to, like, say both me and Ellen were so like down one week that something wasn't going to get delivered, like a website launch or something, I probably would, just approach a client and say, look, we're really ill, like the work can't be delivered. I maybe wouldn't go into the details, but I would just say illness, because mental health conditions are illnesses. So I would probably just do that. But so far we haven't had to push anything back.
Michelle from Specky Scribbler says, do you factor bad days into your project timeline? Sometimes I find that no matter what I try, I can't focus on certain days. So I try to have deadlines that aren't too short to allow for lulls in focus. This is a good one for you, because deadlines are a weird thing for us, because if a deadline, like for me, if a deadline is like 3 weeks away, I'd rather work incrementally in small bits towards it, whereas Craig would rather, he can't get the motivation to work until the deadline is looming.
Yeah, I actually really like having a short, tight deadline, because it sort of excites me.
And sometimes I'll say, like, why haven't you started the stuff for the retainer? And he's like, it's not due till the end of the month. I'm like, yeah, but I hate it when, and we're talking all the time, then the last week of the month is chaos, because the first 3 weeks have been like less focused. It stresses me out. I'd rather every week was consistent than the last week be chaos, whereas you would rather just wait and have a one chaotic last week and 3 less focused weeks.
I'm at my most productive when something's sort of pressing.
When you were at uni, were you like that?
Yeah.
Did you submit stuff on the day?
I left everything to the last minute.
I submitted my dissertation 2 weeks early.
So my dissertation was the only thing that I did early, because I was scared of how, like, because everyone was like, oh, your dissertation.
Yeah.
So I did do that, like, not super early, but like I did it earlier in the deadline, whereas a lot of people like scrabbling to hand it in. I was, for months in my life, sitting back like,
oh yeah, I was doing that, but I've always been like that, because I just would rather just get it done like now.
It's why I've always preferred, for instance, in school and college and uni, I always preferred exams to coursework.
Oh no, I was always opposite,
because
I hate exams,
because I want things to just, like, I want to have like that urgency. And it's the same
it's stressing me out, the idea of an exam.
It's the same with work, like that's why I love projects where something just pops up, like, say for instance me and Ellen have got our month planned out next month or whatever, and then like someone comes in and goes, oh, my e-com site needs product descriptions, can you write 500 of them? I need them now. Ordinarily you'd be like, no, we're too busy, blah blah blah, but I really like doing that kind of work, and also I tend to sort of double my productivity when that happens. So if I was given it normally and we did factor it in and plan it in, it would take us way longer, whereas when I know something like is like there for the grabbing, if you get what I mean, I'm really excited to do it, so I do it really quick.
It couldn't be more opposite to me.
Yeah.
But what
I suppose the question
yeah,
was,
what Michelle's saying is like, do you factor in bad days? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like.
Well, yeah, I was going to say no.
Yeah, but you don't define. So if somebody came over and gave us, I think
we'd set generous timelines. Like we're never trying to rush anything.
In my head, because I do the web design stuff, I'm thinking of like a web design project. I'll say at people like a 6 to 8 week turnaround on a site, and I know I could do the site in a week or 2 weeks, but I'm not going to do that, because I know that other work's going to come in, and I know that like some days, and at this year especially, I would say February was a disastrous month because I just took on too much work and those deadlines, and I crushed myself. March, I have like learned probably more in March than I had in like 6 months before the business, because I've said to people, right, one web design project at a time. There's a wait time if you want new work. Like, just started to like really set expectations with clients, and as a result, like, I think I have factored in bad time, because there's nothing when you have depression, or you're a person that's prone to depression like I am, there's no way you can just like consistently deliver every day. So like every day is different. Some days, like a Monday often is a good day for me. I'm like really productive. And then some days I'm just sitting here and I'm like watching, like all I can do is certain tasks for me are certain mental energy. So website stuff on the design side is lower mental energy, and I can watch a podcast at the same time and get on with it. But then writing an article, which I'm so glad that you like to do that stuff, because for me, sitting and writing an article and researching it is higher mental energy than sitting working out the layout of a page.
Yeah.
Because I can't listen to a podcast I can't watch YouTube or listen to a podcast while I'm writing, and that's my like I get my fit all day, every day. YouTube's playing in this house on both of us. Like, there was a time not long ago where YouTube was starting and both of us were just like, it's like, it's like my whole like world of entertainment and like all the people that I follow and the podcasts I listen to and like content that I watch around everything. I love video essays. I love like philosophy dumps and stuff. And like, I just think that if I'm depressed, sometimes that's all I can cope with.
I don't know if this is fair to say, but I think like even when we're working flat, like what we call flat out, I think probably it's true that both of us could do so much more theoretically than we do.
But then because the hangover of that is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, like what I mean is like, you know, back in the day in an agency, I might write like 6 articles in a day because it was like planned in for me, like bang, 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 bang. And now like a good day I'll do 2. But like I could do way more. Like I could write way more than I write.
I would say you could do more, but I would say that the quality would suffer, and I think your mental state would suffer.
Yeah, I agree. What I'm trying to say is, I guess, yeah, we do plan it in a way where
because we can.
We're generous to ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, like we'll get a lot of work done to when clients need them, but really, you know, our days aren't like as stressful as they used to be in employment. Yeah, it was just like. But
also, like, it's this tangent, but in employment, like, so many hours of the day are wasted with like pointless things, like meetings. You're in meetings and you're like, why am I even here? And I think that since Zoom has become a thing, you realize people are realizing like how long meetings used to be. And you would when I used to work in house, I would have to travel, especially in the motor trade. I traveled all over the country for something that could have been phone calls, emails, Zoom meetings. It was exhausting.
Same for me. It's like, you know,
you used to do a lot of traveling
we're
as well.
Going all the way down to meet clients and like paying for hotels and stuff, and it was always just like, why can't we just video call?
As for our clients, like most of the clients in the Northeast who have had since before the pandemic, I have met in person. Craig only joined the business during the pandemic, but like the ones who are elsewhere in the country and in the world we've never met, like we've spoken to on Zoom or email. Some people only want to speak to on email. This is a tangent, but it's just about the fact that like, yes, we do factor in bad days and bad times, but we're also very careful with our time. And I've taught Craig, because I learned the hard way about people that are time saps, like take time out of your life, like clients who want like 5 or 6 phone calls, and you think, well, actually, if you work out that,
I think that just to jump in, that add some context to this. I think that I'm trying not to lose my point there because I thought it was really like it was interesting. We bill clients for the right amount of time that we spend on them, and we always spend as like, we don't bill based on time like out to clients. We don't tell them like a breakdown of hours, but in our minds we know. And all of our clients get the hours. You know, we serve it. We fully service them. We don't under service or over service really anyone.
Unless it's been a disastrous project and like, you know,
if we have to, but like what am I trying to say? It doesn't, like, you know, over the course of a month, a client on a sort of retainer, the hours they're going to get put in really probably only adds up to like a full day of work, and that can be like, you know, for us, as long as it's getting done, we can do that over a few days and do other things and break it up and like. Yeah, I don't know what.
But I think it's interesting that I said we do factor in bad days, and you were going to say we don't.
Yeah, because I was thinking, like, you know, we don't actually like plan for, oh, what if I'm depressed that day?
Yeah.
But we are like,
but we're kinder to ourselves, but that only because I learned the hard way. Because in the past I didn't, and I would say, right, logically I can turn this around in 2 weeks, so 2 weeks. Whereas now I'll say 2 weeks in my head. I think I'll say 4, even if I can do it in 2, because you just don't know what's going to happen.
And usually nobody's bothered anyway. It's very rare, like, that work comes in where someone's like, I need this week.
And if they need it this week, then they'll pay more for it.
Then you just charge a rush fee, and like if they want it, they'll pay it. The added like convo going on there is that Lauren says underneath. I can't seem to be productive 8 hours a day for 5 days a week, and I'm wondering if other people genuinely can.
No,
definitely not. No way. No way.
Like if I'm
probably good for 4 hours a day, but in that day, like in that 4 hours, I do like 8 hours worth of work. But yeah, no way.
But that's because, like, if you go back to the ADHD episode, you talk more about your like tendencies. Like, I'm a distracted worker in the sense that I'm watching a podcast the whole time I'm working or something. But you're like next level distracted worker.
Yeah, I can't.
But also your focus is insane when you're in the state. I'll go down, I'm like, do you want a cup of tea? And there's just nothing. And I'm like, hello, and you're like, nothing.
Yeah, like, it's weird. It's really weird. I start medication for ADHD on Monday, and I'm hoping that'll sort of.
It's a good segue into this question about Giles is saying tip for like Aspie/neurodivergence or neurotypical people to work with people who are neurodivergent. So, I suppose we can only answer so much as we know. So Craig has been diagnosed with ADHD, but you haven't got an ASD diagnosis. It was just that they said you've got some tendencies.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was another year to get that diagnosis, and like I'm not.
Hi Potter.
Oh, hi Potter. Are you coming in? It's funny that we're talking about Aspie Potter comes in. We often joke like Potter's neurodivergent.
Like, did someone call my name?
Because he can't like. Sometimes he just can't look you in the eye, and like
you're like strong energy of his. He likes his ways, and he doesn't like change and stuff.
He's a good boy.
He is a good boy.
Hello, precious. Good boy.
From your point of view, like what are your, as if you were talking to somebody else who was neurodivergent, whether they had ADHD or they were on the spectrum or they're just not a neurotypical person, what would you say is like tips for them being a freelancer working for themselves now that you've been doing it for what, 6 months or so?
I mean, have a partner like Ellen who sort of sorts your day out for you, but no, I guess if you don't, use some kind of like project management software to try and give yourself a sort of to-do list to stay on track with. Don't overcomplicate it. Like basically the most effective tools for me are things like just like literally like tick box to-do lists and
like the to-do list that I've been writing
and like a loose calendar, like you know, make sure that anytime you set a meeting, make sure you put a like reminder into your like calendar. Google's really good for that because you can set up a Google Meet call and like it auto creates the invitation and like puts it in your diary, which cuts down on the steps because
finding the link and stuff, because how often you're like, I can't find the Zoom link, and also probably budget your time to include your struggles. Oh yeah, definitely. Like if I was I could probably write a 1,000-word article in half an hour, like, and people would be like, wow, that's amazing. But when I actually sit down to write it, it takes us 2.5 hours, the same as anyone else, because I spend good 2 hours loading up chess.com, going on Reddit, like, you know, it's the chess.com obsession remains.
Hit 900 rating this week. Way.
I know, isn't 800 the barrier for beginner? So you're not a beginner anymore.
I think I'm like slightly better than a beginner now, but
now you're like a novice.
Now apparently I've got to start reading like chess games and stuff, but that'll ruin the fun for me.
It'll be, yeah. By the time Monster Hunter comes out, you probably won't be interested in chess anymore.
Exactly, yeah.
For me, I suppose technically neurotypical because I haven't got any diagnoses other than like generalized anxiety and depression, which isn't a neurodivergence as far as I know. Although I suppose OCD is a neurodivergence, but it's not as simple as that for me. So working with somebody who is neurodivergent excuse me, is ask me in 6 months and maybe I'll have a better idea. It's chaos, to be honest.
It's new for us, I think.
Yeah, we're still in very early stages, and we were talking to one of my clients, Dean, who I know listens to this podcast. He was talking about his diagnosis as a disabled person and how he's had it for, and how many years it takes you to deal with a diagnosis, and we're so early in this diagnosis phase that it's like months, like, and I'm still, even though we've been together for 8 years this year, it's like all those 7 and a bit years before the diagnosis, you're the same person, but now the diagnosis is just explaining so much, and I'm having to learn a lot of it the first time, and I'm my tip is to like, back to the tip, I suppose, is to consume media orientated towards people with neurodivergence. So I'm following loads of ADHD accounts, and I'll put some in the description.
Follows more than me.
Instagram. I literally follow them all, and then I send them to Craig. I follow neurodiverse people on YouTube. I've started watching, just from, a lot of it was from, I watch a lot of video essays, and people are doing video essays about Sia's movie music, about like its depiction of autism, and I'm like fascinated by anything which is like a deep dive. So I started watching, and I wanted to watch more people with neurodivergence because it makes me better understand yours, even if they don't have the same things as you. So consume that media, and then also just like listen to them. But it can be really, really hard when, if the person with the neurodivergence, if communication is something that they suffer with, or lack of communication or inability to communicate. Because like we had a project a while ago where Craig really struggled, and I was like, why didn't you tell us? And he was like, I was telling you, but like you were just going, oh, I can't be arsed with this. And I thought you were just being lazy. I didn't know that you really were struggling. And I was like, why didn't you just sit us down and say, look, Ellen, I'm really struggling with this project. Can we just sit and talk through it? And you're like, but my brain doesn't work that way. Like, I just muddled through and kept telling you that I couldn't be arsed. And I just was like, God, Craig's so lazy. And like, didn't do it. So now we learned is bite-sized chunks as well. Like, not telling them something that's going to happen in 2 weeks' time. Try to just focus day by day, week by week, shorter term stuff.
Yeah, I think it's not really, that question wasn't aimed at me, but I think two big things that have like come out of it in terms of our working relationship is because, you know, I'm the same person I was when I started working for you in September before the diagnosis. But like Ellen says, she probably thought things of me that now I realise aren't true, but still affect her. So I have to be mindful of that. So for
that's
instance,
like
the lazy
big circle. That's the biggest thing.
Like the lazy thing. So obviously, like a massive part of ADHD is like you often appear to be lazy, but it's not laziness. It's just genuinely you tend to just forget to do stuff. And like the balance now is me trying not to use that as an excuse. Ellen trying to understand it, like from, you know, and being more considerate, which she definitely is. But then I can't just use my diagnosis as like a shield for every.
And then also if something hurts my feelings, like, or if I'm frustrated by something, even if my logic brain is going, it's his ADHD, my emotional side is still hurt by it, or still struggling with it, or still stressed because the deadline's coming on, or, you know, even in personal life, like that's, I suppose, where we are with it now. Like, I understand, I'm aware of it, and you're aware of it, but it doesn't stop it from affecting the other person.
If you have neurodivergence, it's important to like recognize how that might affect the people you work with, and obviously, yes, it is like they need to have the empathy to understand your condition, and you should never feel ashamed for your condition, but that's still like never an excuse to like make things difficult on purpose, if that makes sense.
Or to not, like, I don't know.
So like I am making a constant effort now to be better, even though like with the things I'm struggling with, even though I know that I've got an excuse for them, I'm trying not to use it as an excuse, and just instead like understand why it makes me feel that way, and then work a way around it.
But I think if you know that the person, if you're the neurotypical person, and like I know that Craig struggles with, like, he didn't communicate to me that time the project was tough. Like, he was telling me, but I wasn't listening, basically, and it wasn't the right way. So now I just ask I ask more frequently how you're getting on with something, or like, and then try, if it's a big project, I won't just leave you to it for a really long period of time without checking that you're working on it. Most of the time it's fine. Sometimes you'll go like, oh, and I'll go, oh, you have like veered off track a bit there. Let's not, you're giving the client too much time on that. Let's move back over here. So that project management, paper to-do lists, and like understanding, like, sometimes
communication, really, just good communication. I think that's again true of any relationship, and obviously it's hard for some people, like you say, with neurodivergence, really struggle to communicate, but just trying to have a regular source of catching up and just checking in with each other, and, you know, making sure that everyone's on the right track.
And I also think with ADHD especially is like prioritizing things is so important. So like I can look at my Notion and see like 10 tasks and be like, okay, well, I'll just, in my head I'm like, okay, I'll do that then and that then. But as we were saying with Craig and deadlines, he kind of needs these like fake deadlines where if everything is if he's got 5 tasks and they're all due on the last day of the month, and it's the 14th of the month now, he can't be like, I kind of can't just like, you like just kind of freeze, and you're like, well, they're all due the same, and it's all now, and nothing's due today. So instead it's easier to just be like, that one's due at the end of the week, that one's due the start of the week, and just kind of give fake deadlines, because then you get the dopamine hit that you need, because ADHD is all around dopamine and like the reward cycle of your brain is like heavily like impacted by getting things done but quickly and like in a repeated, whereas you don't get that when it's like, I've completed this task 2 weeks early. You don't get the same dopamine as you get as when you've just completed it on the due date.
Yeah, right. I agree.
So I think that was all the questions that we got. Do you have anything else to add on the last one, or are you good?
No, I think that's good, and we've went over our half an hour.
I know, yeah, we're on 45 minutes, so that's it from us this week. I suppose maybe next week. I say this every week. Maybe next week we'll have a guest.
Maybe we will.
Yeah, I mean there are people that I need to get.
If not, maybe we'll do the long threaten quitting your job to travel the world episode.
Quit your job to travel the world.
Which I think everyone will be interested in, because a lot of people think about doing
Yeah,
that.
I just don't want to do that during like time of Corona, because I feel bad. It's a bit like, hey everyone, a couple of years ago we did this, and now people can't do that if they want to do it. So
true.
If you bit of dead air there on the end.
Oh yeah, I just was thinking maybe it's a good episode to do, because people are thinking about, like, you know, because like I think COVID has made everyone realise, like, maybe I do want to go and travel the world.
What's
if
important,
I wasn't going to.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, that's a topic for another day. If you've listened to us for this long, congratulations, you're a true warrior.
You're a Cobra Kai, never dies.
And a true Conversations by the Sea fan.
I don't think I've got fans.
Maybe.
Okay.
We're going to sell merch soon.
No, we're not.
Next week, Conversations by the Sea branded hats.
Just hats?
Yeah, just hats.
Just nothing else?
Only hats.
Only hats. Like,
it'll be like OnlyFans,
like
but only
OnlyFans
hats.
for hats. Conversations by the Sea branded hat. Would it be a sun hat or like a beanie hat?
Like a granddad cap. Like a flat cap.
Like a Peaky Blinders hat?
Yeah.
Oh,
or a top hat. Fancy.
What about a fedora?
I'm losing my mind now. Let's end this podcast.
Okay.
No fedoras.
See you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye. Oh no.